Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's time for another Super GoBot review for this month. And this time we'll take a look at a Guardian Super GoBot. This time it's Zeemon. Zeemon was one of the first ones. He was available in 1984. He would also be available in 1985, and he would be discontinued by 1986. Now, while the toy doesn't give him much of an origin, Zeemon does have quite a bit of a backstory in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. At one point, Zeemon was part of the Guardian Defense Force, but he was critically injured in a battle that resulted in him no longer being able to convert into his alternate mode. So he retired from being in the defense services and instead went into politics, thus becoming a member of the GoBotron ruling council, which effectively makes him Leader One's boss. We'll leave that up to all of you to decide if that's really a better deal or not. Depends also on what you think of politicians. Well, let's take a look at Zeemon overall as a toy. First, let's take a look at his articulation, and he does have a little bit better than what we showed with Bug Bite the other week, but not quite. He has his own faults with him, like in this case, Zeemon can't move his head at all. He can, however, rotate his arms at the shoulder. They do lock into position very well. He also does have articulation at the elbow. He can bend his arm forward like so, to about 90 degrees. And they also fold backward, which is more how it's used for converting him. Now this is where he's got Bug Bite beat, is the articulation at the leg. He can bring his leg forward about 90 degrees, and he does have a joint there at the ankle, but that's more, again, used for converting him than for any real practical purposes whatsoever. So it's kind of a mixed nut, if you will. Kind of depends on your preference for articulation. Now, here in a second, we're going to take a look at how to convert Zeemon into his alternate mode. I mean, even though he couldn't do it in the cartoon, he still could be converted as a toy. So, let's take a quick look at that. To convert him, it's pretty simple. It's a little bit different than what most of them are. We start by we take his head and we slide it backwards until it won't shift any further. Then you'll grab his chest, which I will point out, just like Bug Bite, this is metal, die-cast metal here. You'll fold the whole thing up all the way like so. It'll lock the body and the head all together. Those red fenders on the side, you just rotate them up and into place. On his legs, you'll grab his feet, fold them underneath his legs, and then you fold each leg individually up and into the body. For his arms, you'd fold the arms at the elbow backwards so that they come all the way down and touch the upper arm, and then you'll fold them over underneath the car. And then there you have him in his alternate mode. Zeemon here is a Datsun Fairlady 280Z Turbo with a T-bar roof. As you can see right there at the top, nice T-bar. Now, of course, he's definitely the European or Japanese version of the car, as the fact that the driver is over here on this side. Not unlike here in the United States where the driver would be over here. So, pretty interesting. And as an added bonus feature here, you do have, check this out, you can open the trunk. I mean, granted, it's pretty small in there. You're not going to put anything in it, but hey, that's a nice feature. That's very nice. Now, let's see how he rolls. Hey, even with just like Bug Bite, with the die-cast metal in him, he can really roll pretty good. Now, this mode is shared by Transformers as well. There's at least 3 that share the same Dotson Fairlady mode, but the only one that matches him closely is Blue Streak, as Blue Streak is also the 280Z Turbo Fairlady with the T-bar. The other 2, of course, are Prowl and Smokescreen, but they are ones that have been modified to be a police car and a race car, respectively. Looking at the 2 cars side by side, they are pretty close to the same size. Blue Streak's just a shade shorter than Zeemon in terms of the car. He's just a shade shorter. But of course, Blue Streak has accessories, whereas Zeemon did not include any. So that's kind of your own opinion, folks, but I will give some more credit to Zeemon over Blue Streak due to the fact that there's a lot less of the crease marks on the vehicle. I mean, there is some, obviously, here on Zeemon, like around here, around the doors and all the way back, and you do get some evidence of the fender, how the fenders move on there, and of course the gap in the head back here. So you will get some. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect hideaway, but let's compare him next to Blue Streak, and you can see considerably more of the grooves and indentations where the transformation comes into play here. Get that bag in there where it's supposed to be. So he's not quite as accurate of a model, but again, that's also dependent on each individual collector's preference. I'm not here to tell you which way is better. But as my viewers, you do have a right to know that is something to keep an eye on. Before we get to my final thoughts on Zeemon, like Bug Bite previously, I don't have an unused sticker sheet for him, so I think we can safely assume what he has on him is all he came with. But we do have the inner foam packaging. And he doesn't need any special modifications to get in there. He can just sit right on in there. But you got to make sure he gets in all the way. He does have a tendency not to want to go all the way in. And then, of course, we'll put him in the box. So that way everybody can get a look at how he was. He's in the box. Here's the front of the box. I kind of like this artwork. It's interesting in its own way. I mean, nothing's perfect. And now here you go. We've got one for a Guardian GoBot. You can see the inner packaging for it. This one was done a little bit differently, since you see we get sort of a basic idea of how to convert him. They also list him as a street machine instead of as the car that he is. And over here on this side, we have a different origin story here. In a distant galaxy, there exists GoBotron, a planet very much like Earth. A planet inhabited by an advanced, intelligent robot form. Just like Earth, GoBotron has both good and evil. The evil robots are kept in prisons, but they constantly plan their escape. They will venture to Earth to conquer mankind and become Earth's rulers. To disguise themselves on Earth, they have amazing ability to go from robot to vehicle at will. The evil robots escape and head toward Earth to carry out their diabolical plan. Meanwhile, the security force discovers the escape and pieces together the treacherous scheme of the evil robots. Immediately, the security force is dispatched to recapture the escaped robots and preserve life on Earth from evil robots that turn into vehicles, known as GoBots. Beware, the GoBot battle is taking place in your town. I guess that explains all those laser blasts that I'm hearing in the distance. Very, very cheesy, folks. Well, let's still take a look at the box itself. On the one side here, we have an advertisement for the command center. Again, just like what we saw on Bug Bite. Exactly the same thing. But on the opposite side, we have a different advertisement. We have an advertisement for Zod, the motorized monster enemy robot monster. Yeah, it says it right there. 2 monsters. And a Department of Redundancy department here. And I guess somebody probably saw Superman 2. If you look down here at Scooter. What was it that was said? Kneel before Zod. Well, at least Scooter is. I don't think we'll get Superman to do it anytime soon. On the back, we have a different style of instruction. As this time you get printed step-by-step instructions here. And then, of course, down here at the bottom, you get an advert for the 6 Super GoBots that were available at that time. As you can see, this one is corrected on this box, whereas it wasn't on the other box. And then, of course, the top and the bottom of the box, they just basically show off the same thing. Have the same picture here. This one doesn't have a price sticker on it, so it's a little bit mintier. Not perfect. But at least you don't have to worry about somebody wanting to rip the price sticker off of it. He either didn't get marked, or the previous owner was able to do it in a nice way. Get this out of the way here. And there we go. Now, my final thoughts. What do I think of Zeemon? Zeemon is an interesting character. It's interesting to get to see some of the politics behind a lot of our favorite toys like this. Many of our military-themed toys, like GoBots, the Transformers, and to a degree as well, G.I. Joe, their animated media oftentimes just sent them out there into battle with each other, and there really wasn't any behind-the-scenes discussions for the people that have to pay for them to be out there, or any sort of leadership behind them before they go out and wreak havoc onto the world. So this was presenting something of a different perspective. The Guardians did sometimes have to haggle with the security kit, with the GoBotron Council, to be able to do the job that was essential. So it did bring out and expose to us something that many of us were probably not that familiar with. But of course, given how our young minds were back then, we probably didn't pay that much attention to it in the first place. But still, as an adult collector, I can appreciate that being added into it. It's a shame that the cartoon decided to write off him being able to convert, but at least they gave a story to it. It wasn't just written up as to necessarily entirely be a cheap cop-out for the animators, although there certainly was that, but all the cartoons back then were kind of guilty of cheap cop-outs in one way or another. But as an adult collector, I'm going to still put Zeemon like Bug-Bite. I'm going to put him up in the top tier. He had a unique function in the animated series of being a council member, and that deserves a little bit of respect. It shows that he was still willing to fight the good fight, but in a different arena. I also like with Bug-Bite, I love the articulation that this guy has. He has more articulation on him than the average GoBot, the average Transformer rather, of his similar size. And all in all, I do also am a little partial to the red color and the Firebird-like sticker there on his chest. And you got die-cast metal on him as well. What's not to love about Zeemon here? So, top-tier toy, folks. And that concludes my review of the Guardian GoBot Zeemon. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already decided to join us. Please also consider leaving a like on this video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.